What we want is the point where when we shut it off, that there's no air coming out of that top radiator. So that's pretty good right there. As you can see, no water came out of that, which means that's now closed, a closed loop system, because we're above this little port here. So that's going to change the pressure equalization between the reservoir and the rest of the system. That's why before, when I turn it off, there'd be water coming out of the top rad, because the pressure in the reservoir was lower than the pressure in the rad, so gravity would do that. Now that the pressure is higher because we have that thing filled over, gravity's going to kind of take a back seat, and we're going to turn it off for a while while the water's just sitting there. Still got some air coming out. You got to be careful with it now because we got a lot of water in there. Still a lot of air coming out, probably from the last couple times. So I'll probably drop the water level a little bit here. I'll show you when we're going back to this, so I got to be careful how far I go. Alright, so I think we've got pretty much, look at this, we used like half a gallon of this thing, of water. I'm not sure that's how much we'll need in the actual build or not. We'll see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let this run for a bit, and we're going to talk about stuff. Actually, what I'm going to do is, well, let's do some of the case stuff. I want to show off the LEDs and things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it off, and then I'm going to plug in this cable up here that I unplugged before. Then I'm going to temps. I'm just trying to think. We need to. No, we probably shouldn't, because we're going to need to get into here for the. So we'll just plug in the Molex in the back and then deal with the LEDs that way. I'll turn this light off. Well, plug it in first, now turn it off. That's nice. One of these Molex pins came loose. There we go. That's going to be annoying as all hell. Alright, so now I've got a Molex connected to that same one. Have a look at the case lighting here. See if it'll turn on without the rest of the case turning on. Okay. I wonder if there's other power things somewhere. Because the fan controller came on shortly, now it's not on. Okay, there we go. Fan controller's working. That's right, it's a SATA cable. Never mind. So the fan controller works, so I just proved that. We'll leave that plugged in. And what I'll do is I'll unplug my SATA hard drive because I don't want to deal with that at the moment here. I'll pull out the drive bay. Let's actually leave the SATA drive over here somewhere. And plug in the SATA. powder here. Not for the case lighting. Actually, I think that was powering on the hard drive. I'm pretty sure. Aha! Blue, as you can see. So that's the interior case lighting. You can see that actually looks pretty cool. So we can change the color with the dial. Red, yellow to green. And really green, really bright green. Like more of a teal color. There's a whitish color there. Got these ones over here. Just a fan controller. Of course, you got the rear lights as well. They don't appear to be on at the moment. There we go. Boom! Bright as all hell. Look at that. You will never fumble around in the dark with a flashlight in one hand ever again with this case. This is awesome. I can't tell you how many times I've had to try and careen over with a flashlight in my mouth or in the hand and try and do stuff with the back of the case. Now, got this nice lighting back here. It's sweet. Totally awesome. Those are, I don't know, those the same. Okay, no, these ones back here, they're just white. Not those white LEDs. They don't have a color changing thing on them. Which is, that's okay, I guess. I guess that they changed color and everything else, but. So to change the color, what I'm just doing is I'm using this here. This wheel here. Trying to get it in frame. So yes, either direction goes up the red, blue, and green scale. It's kind of interesting, the highlights on that on this thing here. You can see some of the rust in there, or whatever that is, discoloring. So there's supposed to be different modes. Okay, so you have the interior of the case only. That's one mode. The other mode is exterior case only. And the other mode is all lighting on, and the other mode's all lighting off. So those are your 4 or so modes that you have with this case. And that's, to change the mode, you use this one here. This leftmost button. This one changes, turns on and off the back I/O lighting. So this is awesome. Alright, well, I'm going to stop recording for a second, for a while. I'm just going to let this run. I'm just going to leave it unattended and we'll see what happens. Of course, the second you walk away is when it leaks all over everything. And then charge up my camera and my phone, and then we'll come back later and we'll see how it's faring. And then we'll bleed out the system, and then that'll be that until we get the CPU, which I'll then install, and we'll probably get the fans for the CPU, so I'll install those too. We'll put 2 up there, and then I'll have to unhook this radiator, or at least unbolt it, and then re-establish it. I'll need to actually get the right screws, because these aren't the right screws. These ones are a little bit long. They're actually made for the, these are the screws for the 280. I'm just using on next, I didn't think they'd be long enough, but they're a little bit too long. The other ones are a little bit, are a little bit shorter, and I think they're just right for what we need to use them for. But I won't use those until we get the Akasa fans in. But I did get the fan extension. I think I showed them the other day. 3 feet cables. They're sleeved and shrink wrapped at the end, so they're really high. It looks really nice. I actually like this color here. Let's see. But you got blue. It doesn't go very blue though. I mean, after a while, it just kind of fades out a little bit, just a little bit darker. It's not like the red where you go like blood red, or the green where it's like just crazy bright green. Just get like purplish color here. I think the purple would work actually. Purple or whatever you would call this would work a little bit better because the case it accents the case a little bit better. I don't know why it's purple on white. This looks better than you say like white on white or some other color on white. Except for maybe like this really high powered teal color. Anyway, that's going to be it for now. Be back in probably about 45 minutes to an hour and a half or so, and we will continue. I think we're recording. I just want to show you one more thing here, the fan controller and how it actually works. So, this fan here was on earlier, and I have all the fans selected up here by just pressing and holding on this middle button. So I'm just going to push on the plus side now. Watch what happens with the fan. I'm just going to do it one at a time. So 2 to start it. I'm just going to go all the way up with it. So you guys see how bright that gets over there. The LEDs are supposed to drop down in intensity as you go lower on the settings. You probably can't tell much because the other LEDs are on. I guess now that's just always on or something. Anyway, so back to off again. Turn it back on. See how that fan controller works? I don't know if the fan controller worked very well in the original Phantom. I never actually used it enough to see with the sliders and everything. Yeah, I just wanted to show you that before I stopped to realize I hadn't shown that actually working yet. So, we'll be back in a while. I'm going to go ahead and use this rubbing alcohol I prepared earlier this afternoon. And go from there. See how long this will last for. So, got the socket here. Let's go ahead and open this up. Don't want to touch anywhere on the surface of the chip or on the bottom either. You touch on the bottom, you're kind of screwed over because the thing is really, that's what I'm talking about, was the, so these were, remember before I was telling you, the types of things to use for the Intel version of the, for the Intel installation on the Evo. That's these ones here. They got that smaller kind of thing on them. Those just screw right into the LGA socket. Should probably try and tighten them down. I actually had them pop out a couple times on me. So this side first. Got to be an expert on taking these ones off. Now there's an interesting little trick I learned from Jay's 2 cents, and that is put the processor in. Where's the arrow at? Arrow, where are you? Oh, there it is there. Okay, so when I line up the arrow, just drop the socket down in, or drop the CPU into the socket. Now you put this on top of it, and as you tighten it down, it'll actually pop the cover off automatically. Or it's supposed to do that. But it didn't actually quite do that, but yeah. So this is in the socket now pretty firmly, like it should be, not too much pressure. Keep that. So now I just need to get some paper towels here, or a paper towel or two. And actually I was going to use a blue cloth, same one that I used last time for the build, but I don't know where it's at. Somewhere around here, I think. But I'm just going to use paper towels for this. That'll work just as well. Just fold it over a bit here so we get a little bit of a cushioned surface and just dunk it in. Because now we gotta kind of get the excess out. Actually, we'll just like squeeze it down into the rest of it. There we go. So just go over the top of the processor like crazy here. Also want to do this with the bottom of the EVO as well. This stuff will pretty much evaporate on its own, but just in case, you know. You should also go over it with a dry piece of paper towel or microfiber cloth or something. So, yeah, it's like got all these fingerprints on it from me holding it, hand holding it. So I'm going to go over the bottom of this really good. Just like really, really good. Alright, and then we'll get some, actually use some of these over here. Nice and bloody shiny. I'm going to blind you here. Actually, I'm just blinding myself, really. Doesn't really show up too well on the camera. Let's do the same thing down here. Kind of get up any residue. Alright, so this, the G-Lid Extreme they include with the kit is actually pretty runny. I'm not sure why. We'll see what happens here. So we have the... well, a couple things I want to talk about the processor before we do this. The 5960X is actually a solder processor. In other words, the lid, the heat lid, processing lid of the surface here, it's actually soldered onto the cores directly. So it has much greater heat transfer than any of the other Haswell processors, and even I don't even think any of the other chips have had solder before. I'm not even sure if that's true or not, but I don't recall ever hearing that before. But all the lower end Haswells, including the i7s, all are thermal interface material underneath the lid, not solder. So it's going to be a lot greater heat transfer. Another thing is that I think I mentioned before, this is actually a 12-core processor, but 2 cores have been disabled, so that's an 8-core. So I'm not going to use the, well, I don't know if I should use the spreader device or not. Maybe I will, because, you know, that'll allow me to get a nice thin layer on here. I don't normally subscribe to actually spreading it like this, but I'm going to this time. So I'm going to use the line method, just put like a line of this along the processor. And we'll see if that's going to be enough or not. I'm trying not to get any error possibilities here. Well, it started out as a good idea, now I'm not so sure about it. It's not very spreadable at the moment. I think it dried out a tad bit. Alright, so I'm going to scrape this off. We're just going to go with the normal method. I'll go ahead and clean it off. Yeah. It was a lot. I think it's because I had this just sitting open for a while. I don't see how much I have left in here. Come on, you stupid label. I wish I wouldn't do this because, you know, you can't see how much is left in it. I guess they do it so you don't see how little they give you. Okay, that should be enough for what we need. All we need is like a grain, rice grain size kind of thing, so. Okay. Dunk it. Fold it over a couple times. I should have gotten a second tube of Jello, but I didn't realize how much the GPUs were going to eat up. Because originally I wasn't going to put anything on the, well, a little overflow here. Put anything on the, thermal pads for the, the graphics cards, but Now, I decided to do that now, and so that used up pretty much all the entire tube because I also put it on the, I had 2 of them to graphics cards to do, so it's not too bad. There's still a little bit on there, so let's go and do it. Really, I should be using the ArtiClean thing for this, but that's kind of a really involved thing. It takes a while to get it going. This works just as well on the pinch, or not really a pinch, but it's basically the same stuff. The ArtiClean stuff just has a little more kind of a cleaning aspect to it. It'll get a little bit more stuff off than just pure rubbing alcohol. Oh, it's basically chemically the same thing, maybe a little diluted. Alright, so, yeah, it's pretty good, pretty clean. Alright, so we're just going to take what's left of this, and I'm just going to throw it on here. I'm going to go a little bit more. This is non-conductive, so you don't have to worry about that kind of an issue. That is pretty damn fine work there. No trailing bits, just one blob on there. Alright, so if you remember what I was talking about before, the central hole or tubing has to be your inlet, and this is the outlet, so we have to mount it this way. Okay. Now from this point forward, we do a little bit of sideways squishing there, but this point forward, you should never, ever, ever pick this up. Unless you want to have to repaste it again, which I don't want to because I am pretty much out of gelid stuff to use. So I gotta figure out where my thumb screws went to. I tried to clean this place up, and I actually had it cleaned up for a bit, and then it just went back to insanely messy. As you can see. Because I was doing, I forget what I was working on, but something. Where did I put those things at? Thought I put them somewhere I'd know where they were, so I get right into them. But they don't appear to be anywhere. Let me see, maybe they're in this. No, not in there. Okay. Let's see. Where else can we look? Are they in? I think I checked in here, didn't I? Yeah, they're not in here. Though, if I was going to put them somewhere, I might have put them in there. Alright, well, I'm going to pause for the moment because I think the camera's about to die, and I'll find those and we'll continue after that. Alright, so we're getting a little bit creative here. I've got you sitting on top of that tilty bit that the fan is supposed to go on for the case. I got you sitting on that while you're plugged into the wall for power, using that to balance it on itself, and here we go. So I found them, I put them in the box where all the other stuff for the CPU cooler was, because that's, logically where they should have gone. And I was like, there's no way they'd be in there, because I don't put stuff like that. I don't do it like that. I put it where it's going to be hardest to find. Not easiest, or most logical. Yeah, so you got these screws. They go in here like this, and then you just take them and put them on top here. Again, now we're just going to want to mount them, screw them down in a kind of a star pattern where you go across from one side to another, then to the other side to the other. Don't want to tighten down all the way. You want to do them in sequence so that you tighten them down, so that you don't shoot the thermal paste out the side or something like that. I did put a little extra on, so we should get a little more of a solid coverage for this one, which is good because these processors can be hot. So that's 6 turns. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't have to do them in the same kind of number that I'm doing in order. It's just how I'm doing it. I'm just going to essentially decrease by 1 for the next, until I get to 2, which is now. And then I'm going to do them by 2 until I get closer to tightened. Then I'm going to do by 1 until they're fully tightened. You kind of hear the screws grinding against the thumb screws, or the springs. That's normal. If you do squirt some of the stuff out the side, what's good about the gelled Extreme, GC Extreme, is that it's non-thermally conductive. Well, I got one side down tighter than the rest already. Somehow. So your mileage is going to vary as far as what works and what doesn't in terms of the turning of these. So finger tight, that's all you need to go for. You don't need to go too much tighter than that. Again, you don't want to go much tighter than that anyway. So that's on there pretty securely now. We got it oriented the right way, thankfully. Now we're going to do the video cards, and you're going to watch me do this now. I'm going to kind of orient you a little more this way. So you kind of get a look over in here. All my preview windows screwed over on my phone here. Actually, it's the entire connection through it or something, I don't know. Happens from time to time, especially when it's plugged in. If I'm using it plugged in, it just totally screws over sometimes. Okay, so you can see over here. You can't really see too far as downward, but that's fine. Just so you can see the back here. I want to kind of take these and move this out of the way a bit. I've had this all disconnected so things could dry out a bit. Everything's not going to be completely dried out from my, because I did a long-term leak test. Pretty much over all night last night and all day today while I was at work, just to make sure everything was solid. So that was after taking everything apart and putting it back together again. So as long as I get the fittings tightened down, the compression fittings tightened down enough, it's not going to leak, which is good. So now the trick to putting in 2 GPUs at once is to first again, oh wait, those are off. This is not a new case, just a new board. First thing to do is you have to get them, just kind of oriented correctly first of all. Get them in the right spots. You shouldn't expect to get them right in there in the first try. It'll take a little bit of maneuvering. A lot of maneuvering probably. Because they're trying to orient 2 cards against each other and they're going to be pulling on each other. This tubing is going to be causing some issues. You'll need some light. Check to see where you're at on the ports. And again, that heat pipe's going to also be causing you some problems on this board. Okay, then we'll do this one first, pushing it down. So if you want to make sure they are properly seated, what you can do is push down the locking mechanisms and then just kind of lift them out a little bit and then push them back down. These ones aren't going to really snap too well. They're not going to have a very loud snapping sound, so you won't. Yeah, that's literally, it's nothing. Pretty much. I mean, they did do a little bit. Maybe it's because I've taken them out so many times. That could be the case. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second while I look for the thumb screws because I need to. I have no clue where they're at. And also get some mesh fittings in here and then we'll continue. Alright, so again, just putting these in is, somewhat of a chore. You can get them down a little bit with, finger. You can do them by finger a little bit, but you need to get in there with the screwdriver to tighten them all. Well, again, I think I've undone these enough times that it's pretty loosened up actually. So this is my third time installing these. Actually, my first time went a lot smoother than my second and third times for some reason, which is kind of odd, but I guess it works that way sometimes. We're also going to be mixing the coolant, the Mayhems pastel into the distilled water tonight too. My goal is to get this thing actually up and running tonight on camera. So we got a ways to go yet still. Though we're obviously a lot closer because we got things going. Need to reinstall the radiator, so you'll see that this one might not be. Okay, there we go. I'll have to kind of either have to flush the system, or I'll have to do something creative to get this radiator off, and then this one off to do the install the Casa fans. Well, I won't have to take this one out, but this one I will because the fan is in between the back and the radiator, so I have to get in there. These ones are on top of the case, so it's a bit easier. But yeah, the Casa fans I have no clue where they're at. Air here is just a pitta when it comes to their tracking system they use. Yeah, I could have used DHL, but I chose to use China Royal Air Mail or something. And I think that's where my mistake was. I think DHL would have been here like last weekend. According to the tracking site, they're actually here in the States and they're preparing to be shipped by USPS rather. And so I don't know what's going on. Alright, those are in. Now we're going to do the fan, which is this grungy old 140 mil fan that I had from upstairs in my old case that I replaced. Let's see, good. Lift this up a second or underneath because it's going around there. And it's pretty simple thing how to install this. You just put this on here. If you want it blowing into the case, you want to put this side facing inward. And then we'll take the screws, which are over here, and stick them in. And then we'll line up the radiator with this, and then screw them down. I'm gonna put it at the lowest possible area here because we need some clearance for the radiator with the other radiator. This part's always the most difficult. Okay. Pushed it back. Okay. Yeah, that's what can happen too. It's a lot easier doing this when it's standing straight up and down, believe it or not. Because, I don't know why, I guess gravity works differently that way or something. Go ask Stephen Hawking, he probably has some sort of crazy answer, like, the quarks move in a certain direction, so because of that, gravity operates inversely on screws when they're going in the side as opposed to going while the computer's on the side as opposed to standing straight up and down because the covariant of a wormhole or something, I don't know. Okay, there we go. Let's do this. Let's do the bottom and top corners as I almost knock it out again. And then we'll just stick the radiator on and attempt to get it on. Where's the... Oh, there it is. And then we will go from there. Alright, this thing's going to stay. The radiator, that seems to be fairly dried out, which is good. Now this part is always a pain. Yeah, it goes down. Okay. So we get this top one lined up properly and screwed in. We can do the bottom one. I'm not very enthusiastic about these screws. I had this going earlier and one of these wasn't fully going in. I'm not sure if I stripped out the screw hole on the radiator or if the screw was somehow not as good as the other ones. It seems to be fairly in there tightly. Are these the... Yes, they are. These are the hex nut screws. Because our friendly neighborhood European people hate Phillips screw heads for some reason. I don't know why. And this must have... they're racist against Phillips, I guess. Because they do not use those at all, period, in anything, apparently. Every single kit I've gotten from the UK or the EU somewhere, Germany, what have you, has been hex nut screw only. Now, one thing I didn't show you, I will here, is actually installed some screws on the very end there. If you remember how these were kind of hanging down and bending the boards a bit, I installed some screws on the edges of this here to hold them there. I also loosened up this screw here because it was really compressing down. I was worried about it crushing the contacts underneath it. But I didn't do the opposite sides because I was insane. I should have done them while I had them out, but I didn't. So I don't think it'll be much of a problem. It's a little extra reinforcement there. I think this one actually stripped the head out on it. I was putting it in earlier. Yeah, I think this bottom screw hole I stripped out too on this side or something. I don't know. It might be the screw or it might not be. It just won't sit all the way through. And I can't use the other screws because they're too long. So I'm stuck with these. Threading looks the same. Well, it's not the same though. Well, we got 4 screws in there, so it's not going anywhere. Okay, screw that down in. Let's see. It's lined up. Oh, there we go. Wasn't lined up right. Let's see what's going on there. So I was running this thing with all the fans on, most of them I should say. I have the side case fan in. This is actually not the right size bit, is it? That's why. It's too small. It works, but it doesn't work well enough to make full contact. No, that's not that one either. So I got 2 here. Do you have a third somewhere? We'll have to go to the, let's see. Okay, that's fully making contact. Yeah, it seems like these screws just really, I don't know if they're stripping or if they're just, sitting there spinning because there's nothing to lock them off at the bottom with. And this one's fine over here, but these other 2 are just sitting there spinning. So I don't know what's up with that. These screw holes must not be very high quality. Again, though, we got 4 in here, so that's not going anywhere. Alright, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to stop while I flip this thing over and go ahead and install the rest of the tubing and fittings and then continue from there. Alright, we got you unhooked here for a second so I can show you some of the cable management stuff. I've got all these cables here, cable tied here, and then also have this will be for the side case fan, but I'm just running it to this one for now, just because it works. This is, well, it isn't cable tied here. We've got these up here. I'm actually using the dual cable setup that Corsair gives you, so that you have essentially 2 lines of plugs, 6 plus 2 plugs. So you can plug in all the both my cards with just using one cable. It all runs off the same rail, so that shouldn't matter much in terms of if it can run it or not. I'm still going to leak test this a little bit after we put everything in here again because, it's better safe than sorry. Got the 8-pin up here, 24 pins in the back that'll run through and into that. Got the SATA cables down there. Got these cables here that are tied together and they run up to here through the drive cage mounted here. And they run down and around and come back out here and down to the power supply. That power supply SATA is also powering the SATA cable for the case lighting. And for the fan controller, the Molex connector for the fan controller is powering also the pump here as well. We've got a cable tie here for these two. That's the Molex and the 6-pin. Those are the only two that are Molexed on this side. The other ones are Molexed on the back side. That's all the cable management stuff I have done on this side. So let's flip around here. I'll show you the stuff work I did on the other side. This is all done while I was working on some other stuff here. So, got some cable ties down here to tighten this down to the side here. There's actually two there. One to combine all those cables together and one to hold them down. Also, this is the HD audio. Or this is one of the USB cables for the front I'm not using. There's also the HD audio back here somewhere. All on the other side, that's cable tied here at the back, and I also have one up here to hold it down to the case. And that's really all the cable management that I did with this on the back side. I'll have to do some more for the fan cables as well once we get all the fans in. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put in all the tubing again, and we'll continue. Go ahead and plug it back in here and figure out a way to sit you down here so you can continue watching without having to deal with anything here. Let's see. So let me see. I can put you in the hat somehow. Keep you here. It's all about experimentation and figuring out something here. Actually, that just might work. See how does that look? Okay, that works pretty well there. So I'm going to get the Muddy Milk carton. I'm going to really quickly here dump the rest of this out and then wash this out because I don't want to get any rubbing alcohol. Actually, that's a new bottle into the unopened, I should say, into the system here. That wouldn't be very good. And then we'll start mixing this. I'm not sure if I should be using the same distilled water I've been using to leak test the system because there may be some chemicals and things in there that haven't gotten washed out. Or they get washed out with it, but I'll just deal with it. If and when the time comes to have to deal with it. An odd little situation there. Arizona, 99 degrees today outside, and could not get any hot water to come out of the tap at the moment. Oh, it should be fine. I don't like to run some hot water just to make sure I get everything out of there, but it should be fine. Let's go and get everything out of there cleaned up. This is just basic tap water. It's just very bad. It's very likely to have some sort of algae and stuff in it that'll grow. Very very happy territory for bacterial stuff. If you don't want it in your system, even if you're using a biocide, like the Mayhem stuff. That's another thing this Mayhem stuff is for. It has biocide and anti-corrosive in it as well, so it'll keep things from corroding not entirely, but more than just pure distilled water will. And also will keep things from, growing in your system. So here's how this is going to go. I measured it out last night. Actually this morning, afternoon, how much I was going to need. So I'll need essentially 1 liter of coolant, of liquid to put in there. I measured out that it would hold 3 times 250 milliliters, and then 1 extra 150, or 1 extra 250 with a little bit of extra space in there. So we'll see what happens. I may have to go a little bit of a, just kind of an experimental bent to see how much we really need. So I'm using the milliliter side here. Just gonna do it in groups of 250. Pour it into here, measure it out, put it in there. We'll do 3 of them, then add in the 250 of the 1 bottle, which is 250. And add that in. Then we're gonna, shake it up and make sure it's properly. And this I did very, very, very thoroughly clean out. So like 8 or 9 cycles of cold water, 5 or so of hot water, then another 2 of cold. So there's no milk in there or anything. I'll let it dry out for the last 12 or so hours, actually 24 hours about. This is 1.89 liters as much as it holds, so we'll be able to fit all of it into here, all the coolant we're going to need into here. So that's 2 and 1 more. Okay, so that's 750 of distilled water. Now I'm going to do 1 whole bottle of Mayhems. I'm just going to pour it right into here so you can see what it looks like. $250 exactly, which is how much it said it was going to be. So this goes into here as well. Pour it carefully. So we get everything in there. Now you don't want to shake this up too much, just kind of a little swish here and there, because this stuff will foam up a bit. You don't want to do that. Just go ahead and put the leak-proof cap on here and just do a little swishing to get it mixed here. Circular motions here. It also can mix inside the reservoir and the pump, the system, but I want it to be really thoroughly mixed beforehand because there could be some unforeseen things of doing it the other way. Make sure everything's pretty good this way. I'm not going to be putting on any of the facade pieces till I get the Casa fans, just because it'd be too hard to get the top off again. Alright, that should be good. So now we're going to start. Now we got to first go back and do all the loop. Redo the looping here. Let's go ahead and close this up. You should keep the bottles so that when you switch out, change out your the fluid, that you have these to store it in so you can dispose of it. You're not supposed to throw this stuff directly down the drain. Alright, so we got a compression fitting on this. So we'll put one on this side. Tighten that one down. One other thing I wanted to mention was that as you use your system, the compression fittings, this is one of the drawbacks to compression fittings. If you don't have them screwed all the way down, and you normally won't be able to, sometimes I can though, normally won't be able to, but if you can't, then as your system runs and you dissipate heat, the tubing will soften up and you'll be able to turn them an extra turn or two, maybe like once a week or something like that. It's good practice to just go back into your case for like the first couple of months and just make sure you get all the turns you can out of your tubing so that nothing kind of pops off and you don't have stuff all over in your case. That's the one drawback with compression fittings as opposed to barb fittings. The barb fittings are very annoying to deal with too, so that's the payoff for that. So just be aware of that. Alright, we got that in. Let's go ahead and just connect it up here. That would be drop on the floor. Oh, the lid to the distilled water. Let's probably get that back on there so we don't knock it over and spill stuff everywhere. Okay, tighten this one down. Now you also don't have to get them down all the way tight, but it's a good practice to do so, just because it's better safe than sorry. See if we can get this one on here. Usually a real pain. It's a really tight bend from the CPU to the radiator. The last time wasn't too bad. I guess it wasn't too bad this time. Getting there in the first place was really hard. Okay. This is the one that's annoying because there's only one place I can turn it from, and that's my right hand this way. It's really hard to get enough leverage on it. But this is one of the ones I can get pretty tight somehow. I don't know how. It's really hard to get tight though. That's one of the ones you have to make sure you get tight 'cause it's right on top of the frickin' video card. Okay. Let's see, this one I believe. Yeah, this is the one for this. On this side. Okay. Okay, I get this one on. Nearly done. Okay. Yeah, these ones are really hard to get on. Alright, should be good. Alright, so let's see. Radiator to knuckle equals radiator plus knuckle plus compression fitting equals scraped up knuckles. And I'll probably get a little laugh out of my friends from work about that because we're doing all these programmer jokes like that today. So, I have a little bit of spilled water here. All we got left to really do is to run this. Oh, we gotta get the grommet back in and try to pull the grommet out again. Second time or third time I've done it. pulling out the bleeding tube. These grommets are such a pain. I wish they were, physically fused into this thing so they wouldn't pop out like that. Glued in or something, There we go. Yeah, it's all the way done. Alright, all the way closed. Grab another compression fitting here. Get this hooked up onto the video card. Bottom here. It's supposed to be up to 100 tomorrow. It's already summer here in Arizona. It's still getting snow up in some parts of the Northeast. In Ohio. California's about to switch over to Water Wars. Mel Gibson will probably fit in pretty well down there, as a matter of fact. He's probably going to be the best suited for that whole eventual situation. That's pretty well done. Alright, I think that's all the tubing connections we need. Flashlight here. Oh, where the heck is that thing at? Oh, it's on the other side. As far as over as I could get from that side that I was trying to get it on. Okay, so we got the graphics cards in. See, that's connected. These two are in. See, into there, out there, in, out, out, closed off, and that's up in there. These are all pretty well secured. Right. Got a bunch of paper towels down here that we're going to use for leak testing. I had them actually in there before. It's the ones used for my long-term test. There's no leaking, so we're just going to reuse them. It's all about sustainability, huh? Not wasting too much stuff. Alright, it's good. Here on top. Graphics card. I'm also gonna turn on the light. Oh, the lights will come on automatically, I think. Should be interesting how it reflects with the reflects off the Mayhems pastel white. Should be a pretty cool effect. The one thing in the system I'm sure is not going to leak. It's going to be that pump. That's the one thing I didn't touch. Alright, let's go and get the filling tube in here. I'll see if I can get you somehow oriented to the opposite side here. So you can see what's going on with the reservoir. Okay. Let's see. Gonna have to get creative.